The room went silent the moment the maid's uniform tore. 1 second, the grand ballroom was filled with music, laughter, and the clinking of crystal glasses. The next, hundreds of eyes were fixed on a frightened young maid standing beneath the golden chandeliers, her hands trembling as she tried to cover herself with the torn fabric. The billionaire's fiancée stood before her, furious and humiliated, still gripping part of the blue uniform in her hands. But then something unexpected happened. As the torn fabric shifted, an old scar became visible along the maid's back. The fiancée's anger disappeared. Her face went completely pale. And the billionaire, who had been rushing toward them, stopped as though he had suddenly seen a ghost. Before we continue, if you believe in humanity, second chances, compassion, and the idea that every person deserves to be treated with dignity, please like this video, share it with someone who believes kindness still matters, and subscribe to Humanity Tales for more emotional stories that remind us what truly matters. The maid's name was Amara. She had worked at the mansion for almost 2 years, quietly cleaning rooms, carrying trays, polishing silver, and disappearing whenever the wealthy guests arrived. She never complained, even when some guests treated her as though she were invisible. She had learned that in places filled with enormous wealth, people sometimes forgot that the people serving them had dreams, fears, families, and painful histories of their own. Amara had one simple goal: work hard, save enough money, and build a better future for her younger brother, Daniel, who depended on her after they had lost their parents. The mansion belonged to Alexander Sterling, one of the wealthiest businessmen in the country. Alexander had inherited a powerful company but had spent years turning it into something even larger. Despite his fortune, he was known for being reserved rather than arrogant. He often walked through his mansion late at night, greeting employees by name and quietly helping people whenever he could. But his engagement to Victoria changed the atmosphere inside the house. Victoria was beautiful, sophisticated, and accustomed to getting exactly what she wanted. She believed appearances were everything, and she had little patience for anyone she considered beneath her social circle. That evening was supposed to be perfect. Alexander and Victoria were hosting a celebration for investors, friends, and influential families. The mansion glowed beneath enormous chandeliers, musicians played softly near the staircase, and every table was covered with flowers and shining silverware. Amara had spent the entire afternoon helping prepare the ballroom. She had barely sat down all day, but she continued working because she knew the event was important. Then Victoria noticed a small stain on the edge of a serving tray. She immediately blamed Amara. Amara tried to explain that the tray had been handed to her already marked, but Victoria was too angry to listen. In front of the guests, she demanded that Amara leave the ballroom. When Amara apologized and reached for the tray, Victoria grabbed her uniform instead. The sudden pull tore the fabric, and Amara stumbled forward in shock. The room fell silent. Amara instinctively turned away and tried to cover herself. She wasn't embarrassed because of the torn clothing. She was terrified that the old scar on her back would be seen. Victoria noticed it first. The scar was long and unmistakable, but it was old and healed. There was nothing graphic about it, yet the sight of it carried a story that Amara had spent years trying to forget. Alexander rushed toward her and immediately ordered everyone to give her space. His voice was calm, but his expression had changed completely. Victoria stared at the scar, unable to speak. She suddenly remembered something Alexander had once told her about his childhood. Years earlier, when he was a teenager, he and his younger sister had been involved in a serious accident during a family trip. A stranger had helped them before emergency workers arrived. Alexander had never forgotten that person. He had spent years trying to find out who had saved his sister, but the only clue he had was the memory of a young girl with a small blue ribbon tied around her wrist. Victoria looked at Amara's wrist. There, beneath the torn sleeve, was a faded blue ribbon. Alexander saw it too. He asked Amara where she had gotten it. For several seconds, she said nothing. Then she quietly explained that her mother had given her the ribbon when she was a child. She remembered an accident many years ago. She remembered seeing a frightened boy trapped near the road and helping a little girl get away from danger before adults arrived. She remembered being injured herself and waking up in a hospital afterward. Alexander's face changed. He finally understood. The maid he had unknowingly employed for 2 years was the same person who had saved his little sister. But there was another painful truth. Amara had never told anyone because she did not consider herself a hero. Her family had struggled for years after the accident. Her mother had suffered emotionally, their finances had collapsed, and Amara had grown up believing that helping someone was simply something a decent person should do. She never expected a reward. Alexander struggled to hold back his emotion. He apologized to Amara, not because he had mistreated her, but because he realized how many times she had walked through his mansion carrying the weight of a difficult life while everyone simply saw her as a servant. Then Victoria stepped forward. For the first time that evening, she wasn't angry. She was ashamed. She apologized to Amara in front of everyone and admitted that she had judged someone based entirely on her position. She said the torn uniform was not the worst thing she had done that night. The worst thing was making another human being feel small simply because she believed she was more important. Amara accepted the apology, but she also reminded Victoria that respect should never depend on someone's wealth, clothing, or job. Alexander later arranged financial assistance for Amara's brother's education, but he made sure Amara understood that it wasn't payment for saving his sister. It was simply an opportunity she deserved after years of sacrificing for her family. Months later, Amara was no longer working as a maid. Alexander offered her a position managing a charitable foundation created to help struggling families receive education and emergency support. She accepted, not because she wanted wealth, but because she wanted to give other people the second chances she had once needed. And Victoria changed too. She began volunteering with the foundation, quietly learning that kindness was not something performed for cameras or wealthy guests. It was something practiced when nobody was watching. One evening, Alexander's sister visited the foundation and hugged Amara with tears in her eyes. She had finally learned the identity of the girl who had protected her years ago. Amara smiled and told her that she didn't need to thank her. She had only done what anyone should do. And that simple sentence stayed with everyone who heard it. Because sometimes the greatest heroes don't wear expensive clothes. Sometimes they carry scars beneath ordinary uniforms. Sometimes the person everyone overlooks is the very person who once saved a life. If this story touched your heart, please like the video, share it with someone who needs a reminder that kindness still matters, and subscribe to Humanity Tales for more stories about courage, compassion, and second chances. Before the final moment, comment, "Kindness sees the heart," if you believe every person deserves dignity, no matter their job, background, or circumstances. The scar on Amara's back never disappeared. But its meaning changed. It was no longer a reminder of the painful past she had survived. It became a symbol of courage, a reminder that even after life leaves us with scars, we can still choose kindness, help others, and become the reason someone else finds hope. And in a mansion where people once judged others by appearances, one humble maid taught an entire room the most valuable lesson money could never buy: a person's worth is never measured by the clothes they wear, but by the kindness they carry in their heart.